Sometimes the very best innovations in one industry are actually borrowed from another. The Coil is one such innovation, repurposing the genius of a wort chiller and applying it to the ever-growing realm of iced coffee. More of a brewing accessory than a brewing method, the Coil crash cools your hot brews without dilution, allowing you to get the very best flavor out of your cold coffee. Hey folks, Steve with Prima Coffee here. Today we're taking a look at a very exciting product. This is the Coil by Miscellaneous Goods Company. They're a company based right here in Louisville, Kentucky. And this is not a brewing device as much as it is a brewing accessory. And this is probably one of the most exciting things to come to iced coffee. Now what this is, it's an all ceramic device. It has three main parts to it. There's a lid here that actually acts like a funnel, has a little grommet to let your coffee flow down into this chamber, which has a very large stainless steel coil that wraps around. Now, the way this works is the coil is where all the coffee flows, but you fill up this chamber with ice and water, so as the coffee flows down, it cools. And in order to make sure that there's a slow enough flow rate to cool your coffee down sufficiently, there's also a little bit of a flow restrictor here. And it has these little feet, so when you're done brewing, you can set the whole cooling chamber aside. It also has this carafe, and the carafe holds about 450 milliliters, or roughly 15 ounces of coffee. So this is not a very large batch chiller for coffee. It's more of a single cup, maybe up to 2 or 3 cups if you're on the smaller side. Or if you want to take a 16-ounce cup of iced coffee with you, this is perfect for just that one big cup. Now, I'm going to go through a brew here to show you how it works. I'm just going to start out by putting a whole bunch of ice right up in the top. Now, we found that this works best by kind of alternating a little bit of ice and water. You do fill up the whole chamber with ice and water. And alternating helps make sure that you get the maximum amount of ice possible, so you can get your coffee as cold as you possibly can in the short amount of time that it takes to flow through the brewer. So I'm almost done here. Just gonna add a little bit more ice. And you do want to leave a little bit of room at the top, so when you put the funnel on, you have room for it to fit. So now I have my funnel here, and I'm just gonna pop that right on. So the whole thing is, it's all ceramic. It all fits together really nicely. It's this whole beautiful package. And I just have some coffee just brewed here. This is about 140 degrees right now, and I'm just going to pour it in, and that's really all you have to do. There's no extra tools needed, and really the great benefit here is that I can brew coffee and dial it in for tasting really great hot. I can make a very delicious hot coffee, and I don't have to worry about dilution at all. This coffee never touches the ice. It only runs through the coil and cools down. So it crash cools it without any dilution at all. So when I brew my coffee hot, and if I'm in a cafe and I'm brewing coffee hot to my my desired specifications, I don't have to worry about changing the recipe at all, changing the brew time, or accounting for dilution. I can just brew that same wonderful hot cup of coffee. I can pour it through the coil, and by the time it reaches the bottom, it's going to be about 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Off of that, 140, even up to 190 or so, like really, really fresh, really hot coffee. It cools it down perfectly, and it's ready to throw in a cup with a little bit of ice, or even just straight. It's already cold enough to drink. So really, that's the wonderful innovation here, is that traditional iced coffee methods, if you're talking about cold brew, you're talking about a very long brewing process. It's a higher strength. It has a little bit of a different flavor. So, and because the brewing time is 12 to 24 hours typically, you're talking about a really long time invested into making sure that coffee tastes its best. When you are brewing hot cups of coffee, you can brew in 2-3 minutes, and you get results rather, in comparison, almost instantaneously. So you can taste that coffee and taste it and say, well, okay, I need to adjust this or that. And if you are able to do that with an iced coffee, you can brew it hot, you can get it all dialed in, and then crash cool it in the scope of 15 minutes or so. All of a sudden, you've really improved your iced coffee program, and you're able to dial in exactly the flavor that you want out of your iced brew. And there's other benefits as well. We've actually put a hot latte through the coil, and it tastes fantastic. You know, an iced latte may typically be an espresso with cold milk over ice, but this really emphasizes the sweetness that you get out of steamed milk as well as the body, and it really improves the flavor of your iced lattes. So there's a whole world of possibilities here, but you know, you can put coffee through this, you can put tea through it, you can do hot chocolates, or really any hot beverage. You can crash it down to a cool and drinkable temperature, so, you know, make it really nice and refreshing for a hot summer day. Or, you know, if you're just one of those year-round iced coffee drinkers, you've got a hot brew turning into an iced brew in just the scope of a few minutes. So because of that flow restrictor, it does take a few minutes to drain. That's really for the best, because you want the hot coffee to be in contact with the ice as long as possible. So the flow restrictor really helps. That does mean, however, that if you are doing a larger brew, like let's say you're doing a half liter, a 500 milliliter brew, the upper portion, the upper funnel part, only holds maybe 300 milliliters if you're pouring really, really carefully and it doesn't spill over. So that means that the funnel is going to fill up faster than you can empty your batch. So you do need to be a little bit careful when you're pouring. You know, if you just need to pour in 2 installments, that's not such a big deal. But we don't recommend actually brewing on top of this for that reason specifically. If you're using like a Coolito Wave or something that has a lower flow rate, it takes a little bit longer to flow through. You know, you might be able to get away with it, but you also won't really be able to see if if the upper funnel is gonna overflow at all. Combined with the fact that this whole thing is a little bit too heavy for most scales. If you have a scale that only has a 2 kilogram capacity, the whole thing plus some brewing equipment is going to be too heavy for that scale. So you would need to have something with a 5 kilogram or above capacity, like a Jennings scale with the 4 kilogram. But really, the utility of this is mainly in being able to pour hot coffee right into it, cool it down nice and quickly, and get that fantastic hot brew, the full extraction flavor with no dilution in just a few minutes. So that is the Coil Coffee Chiller. It is assembled right here in Louisville, Kentucky, and we couldn't be more excited to bring it onto our catalog. Thanks for watching.